Good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to the 6:30 City Council meeting. At this time, we will stand for pledge and prayer. Mr. Hawkins. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow at this time. Our Heavenly Father, we come at this time thanking you for the day which you have granted us. We thank you for this city, the employees that work for the city of Borger, and the citizens that are striving to make this city a better place to live. We ask you to be with this council tonight as we make decisions, that you will grant us the wisdom and understanding we need to make the right decision for our citizens. We ask these in our name, in Christ's Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we won't have any questions or comments from any citizen. And I see none, so we'll move forward to the consent. It's not the city council, the city manager's thing, though. We'll move on to the consent agendas, 5 through 11. If there's any discussion, or if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve consent items 5 through 11.
Second. All in favor? And it passes. Item 12, consider and take appropriate action on resolution R-028-23, declaring 4 outdoor warning sirens as surplus property and authorizing the transfer to Oldham County. Mr. Whistler.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
So first thing to clarify, we had a little typographical error on here. Initially, we were going to look at distributing 4 of those old tornado sirens to Oldham County and 3 to Wheeler County.
Oh, okay.
Wheeler County ended up backing out of that. Oldham County said, well, we'll take all of them. And so it's updated in the resolution, just not on the heading of the council memo and this particular item.
I remember reading it was
So-
7, so.
So currently, the purpose of this is, as you know, over the last several years, we updated the city's outdoor warning sirens. We got new federal signal sirens that are solar operated. We did keep a few of the older sirens, and keep in mind these older sirens, some of these have been around since probably, I don't want to pick on anybody's age, but it's been a minute. These are generally referred to as the civil defense era sirens that we're estimating probably 50 plus years old. We replaced them in part because a lot of them were just becoming problematic. There were some erroneous activations that we had with a few sirens. It just happens with age, and things don't stay as watertight as you'd like for them to. And so we replaced those. Pardon me. What we want to look at doing is Oldham County, especially after the Perryton tornado, has expressed interest in taking those and refurbishing those at their expense. We did have to pull out 1 siren ourselves years back when we started putting in the new sirens. It ended up costing just shy of about $1,000 to have the electricians come out. They have to de-energize it, pull it off, you know, with their big equipment, and then the storage and the handling. And those sirens are a lot bigger than they look when they're right in front of you. It was a tedious process. Under this agreement, we basically would be getting rid of these sirens that have been sitting on poles that aren't serving any purpose at no cost to the city at Oldham County's expense. They want to hire a contractor. They've contacted a service technician that believes they can refurbish them and get them up to some of the more rural areas in the Oldham's Vega area on the west part of the Panhandle, and they think they can get these refurbished and serve their community better than what they are for us, which is really just literally collecting dust since we have the new sirens. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what this resolution is requesting permission to dispose of this property to Judge Blue, who's over in Oldham County, and he's been great to work with and very engaged in this process. And like I said, and the best part is we don't have to pay anything to have them removed, and we don't have to store them. And really, we felt like if we tried to auction these, what our expense to get them removed and stored in auction would probably end up being, you know, we'd probably take a little bit of a loss on that one. This is just kind of a guarantee we won't have a loss. as
And we do
well.
like being neighborly and
Yeah,
being the
absolutely.
go-to in the panhandle.
Yeah, that's good.
On a related subject, how satisfied are we with the coverage of our new siren system? Because I've had a constituent ask, and
Is your constituent concerned? I feel, based on the sound maps and what we've seen with the new sirens, we have less of them than the old sirens, but the coverage area is better. I'm 1,000% more confident in their sustainability and reliability, not being attached to a power grid, and they are under routine maintenance. So each couple of years, representatives come and replace those batteries and make sure that they're always operating. And with the new system, we also have that feedback, so we can see from the computer screen. I can actually see from my cell phone. I can actually activate them from my cell phone and get an affirmation back that these sirens are working and that they did sound. So the 3 old ones we kept one right behind the police department, behind the dry cleaners, because we like to sound those sirens and bother them when they're trying to do reports. We did have some in the downtown, but because of the building structure that we felt might be a little weak, and those sirens actually hadn't given us much problem. So when I say we kept them, we kept the old siren head, but we put new control boxes on them, and the new control boxes are, state of the art and work with this new encrypted system. Keeps our system from being hacked also, which happened in Dallas. For those of you that may or may not remember from years back, their siren system got hacked because they used a simple unencrypted system. So I'm very confident in our citywide coverage. What we have to reiterate a lot of times is we call them specifically outdoor warning sirens to warn people that are outdoors. If you're inside and you're listening to your music, you're in your basement, you may not hear them, but that's where we try to promote the Everbridge and the no other radio systems. Some sort of redundancy for indoors. So outdoor coverage, I think they're exceptional coverage.
yeah, I think that's the key, is that they're outdoor.
Outdoor warning
And,
sirens. And it's a
if
hard
you're-
term. We're used to
if
calling them
you're-
tornado sirens, but
Yeah.
we will use them for, isolated events, hazardous materials, wildfire, because it's not all or nothing. We can activate individual sirens with the new system. So if there's just a fire in Buena Vista, we can just sound the sirens out in Buena Vista if we needed to. So
Yeah.
there's a lot more versatility, but I'm very confident with their coverage
Okay.
for people outdoors.
All right, thanks, sir.
They don't get stuck on.
Don't
They,
get stuck on
they do
forever.
go off when you sound them. I'll be a little sad that we won't be able to judge the migratory pattern of the birds by which sirens have a bird's nest coming out the first activation of the
Yeah.
year, but
Well,
Which has
how do you,
happened.
I mean, I guess you've only used them for tornadoes, as far as I know, right?
Fortunately, yes.
Yes, so how would a person know if there was a fire instead of a,
Well,
I
generally.
mean, it just warns you that there's something going on? or-
It's just exactly. It doesn't
Okay.
tell you what, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. I'll kind of digress. The timer's not on for my minutes, but we
Uh-oh,
did talk
sorry.
early on about, because you can do multi-tones, but we figured that public education component would be so difficult that this sound means do this and this sound means do that. Some
Yeah.
of them have voice enunciation. We absolutely opted out of that because unless you're right in the exact middle of multiple sirens with that voice, sound travels a different, you're going to have, and I think Pampa actually tried this in their municipality, and I believe it was a nightmare because all you hear is voices and it's so muffled and echoed because you're hearing it at different times. So basically,
So
if you
it's
hear the
just check-
sirens, seek other information. Seek
Absolutely.
information somewhere. Not go out on your patio with your cell phone.
That makes sense.
Seek information.
Okay.
well, remember that they were purchased with a grant through the Civil Defense era. They were installed to warn you of impending nuclear attack.
Oh,
Yeah.
So really, they weren't even purchased and bought for tornadoes. That's just kind of how we've gotten used to using them.
Okay. That's interesting.
And Everbridge will dial landlines.
Everbridge will dial landlines, cell phones. The WIA alerts allow us to send out a Amber Alert style to anybody that even is just traveling through our jurisdiction. Even if they're not registered with here and just driving through, we can hit them with what's called a WIA, Wireless Emergency Alert, which is a partnership through FEMA and the FCC. We have a very wide array of tools at our disposal between the sirens and the Everbridge system, which can, again, Everbridge, I can't say enough, it can go from a simple text notification to make everybody's cell phone scream in all of Hudson County. And actually just recently, there's a new ruling that will allow us to conduct up to 2 actual wireless emergency alert tests per year in our community.
So we're not gonna test a possible ICBM incoming?
Correct. We're not going to do Hawaii.
Preferably.
We're not going to do Hawaii, but we actually have recently they did the national alert. For some of you that may have that, it's that same thing. I think y'all were at the TML conference. That's
Yeah.
the same technology we have, so it doesn't matter where you are. If you're in Hutchinson County, we can actually up to 10 miles outside of Hutchinson County, we can send that same alert to those phones if we need to. We use that very sparingly. So just because we don't want to make people tone deaf to it.
Yep.
So.
Well, with everything that we've invested in, we do have an option for every possible way to notify the public that there is now, between the outdoor sirens, the Everbridge notification, which is email, landline, cell phone notifications, plus the new NOAA weather radio transceiver. So if you've got a NOAA weather radio, that covers the entire county, plus the network news broadcast and over-the-air broadcast. There is not a modern method of notification that we do not have the capability of using.
And we actually just recently switched, we had an old chat system that we communicated with the National Weather Service and local media. That was recently upgraded this year to a Slack platform. And with that, we didn't have the ability before, but again, on our phone or on our desktop computer, we can tell, which we did on the Bugby fire, we have direct access to communicate with the Weather Service, who can update information over the radio, weather radio. All the news meteorologists are in that system. So News Channel 10, 7, everybody else. So they all have access and they're all in this room. So if we need to communicate with them, like Garrett said, there's several ways we can get that information to them. Either through Everbridge, we can actually send emergency alert to EAS that the Weather Service and media would get, or we can just communicate directly through this new Slack platform. So been a lot of advances in our ability to communicate emergencies with the public, and as Mr. Spradling said, people just have to be willing to receive it.
It's that we talk about partnership a lot here lately. Everything that we do is a partnership, and there's got to be some involvement in the community. You've got to come sign up for the alerts. You've got to go online and do it. You've got to be willing. And we talk a lot about that with public engagement and even all these events. Well, I didn't know you were doing that.
Right.
There again, we can advertise and we can push as much as you want, but if you're not open to receiving the information, if you're not actively in communication phase.
You use an acronym SLAT or SLAG? SLAT.
I did not make up that term, but like a slack in a line or somebody slacking off. It's I won't call it social media, but it's an internet chat system that allows us that we now have with the National Weather Service and all the news agencies. There was an old version of it, but it was very finicky and it had to be used strictly on a computer. So in particular, the Bugby fire that we recently had not too long ago, I was out at that fire and was able to still communicate with the National Weather Service. They mentioned seeing the hotspot notification via satellite, confirmed with them that there was, and we were about to issue an evacuation, and they concurrently followed suit by pushing that information out over the weather radio system. So it's incredible, the tools and technology that are out there. It could also be our Achilles heel someday, but for now we're going to enjoy it because it's all working. So.
We're not afraid of AI yet.
Yeah.
So what I heard is he wants to go learn how to send smoke signals.
Hey, I've got the book. The 1 second after. I've read the book. I'm ready for it. So.
I was wondering if you ever thought, when you became emergency management, if you ever thought you'd be so technical. I mean, you pretty much have to be an IT guy.
Well, we wouldn't have been without the support of the council. There's my brown nosing, but it's true. I mean, with the radio system upgrade for public safety radio systems, we made huge advancements in a very short period of time, and got some really very solid, reliable systems. So, and again, it is thanks to y'all and of course the support of the community to keep y'all supporting us. So,
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else have anything?
Thank you for the education.
That was good.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so
Thanks.
much. And I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution R-028-23, declaring 7 outdoor warning sirens as surplus property and authorizing the city manager to sign and document necessary for the transfer to Oldham County.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. Item 13, consider and take appropriate action to approve Resolution R-029-23, appointing a new member to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Byrd.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we have received an application from Frank Hobson to volunteer to serve on our Planning and Zoning Commission. And we just ask that y'all approve that appointment. I've known Mr. Hobson for several years with his times with Fuzzies and then recently here with him opening up a business of the HTO spot here in town. So should be a good working relationship.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.
Anyone have anything? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution R-026-23, appointing Frank Hobson to the Planning and Zoning Commission to fill an unexpired term ending June the 30th, 2025.
All in favor? And it passes. Item 14, consider and take appropriate action to schedule a public hearing for November 21st, 2023 at 1:30 PM, and then introduce on first reading ordinance O-011-23, amending the zoning map of the city of Borger, Texas by rezoning 517B S, or South Bryan.
You don't have to read that.
Okay, thank you. From the suburban urban zoning district to the corridor mixed use zoning district. Mr. Spradling.
So we've taken some previous action on this before. The future land use map was amended after recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission for this. The plan originally, this is the old Helping Hands building on Bryan, kind of across from the band practice field, just behind that church. They had some inquiries about, doing some sort of, commercial type snack shack or some sort of storage building, or not storage, sales, commercial sales building there. We branded the future land use map of the zoning process separately back then, so the future land use made it through the planning and the zoning and made it through the council. The council previously approved the amendment to the future land use map to allow this rezoning. The owner then did go back and request the rezoning. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing and recommended it. Then after some change in personnel, or during some change in retirement personnel, this never made its way to the council. So now we just need to kind of take final action on this to get the rezoning approved. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend it, all in favor. There were no discontent. And I'll entertain any other questions that you might have on that.
This is going to be rezoning, it's not tearing it down.
Right, this is just to allow them to use commercial use. The suburban urban that it is currently is a residential use, so the vast majority of that, of Bryan, really south of 3rd anymore, it hasn't been residential in quite some time. So I think with the future development patterns, that's why we supported, the change. And it's been operated in a commercial capacity more so in the past. It was just illegally operated in reality. We just did not take any enforcement action based on some of the nature. We have had some other issues, and so after doing the ULDO and updating all of our zoning and future land use map, we're trying to kind of, correct and fix problems as they come up and not just keep things out of compliance. And so a good chunk of this block had already been designated corridor mixed use in the plan, and we do not have the staff in that whole process to have gone parcel by parcel to confirm that every parcel
Right.
was done. So we expect some one-off, but
This is directly south of the church, is there on the
Right.
corner? Okay. I was trying to figure it out for sure. Okay.
I probably should know this back when we did all the ULDO, but I can't remember. Why suburban urban? Why is that not just residential? I don't.
so we've always had, the city previously had 3 residential zonings. We had single-family 1, single-family 2, and general residency.
Okay.
So when we rezoned to general residency and suburban urban.
Oh, okay.
And so suburban urban
You can be double, I mean,
It allows more
Apartments
denser,
and-
it allows more denser development, so the setbacks are lesser, you can have, more duplexes and things like that, which is why they call it urban.
okay.
Still suburban, because we're in a,
Okay.
it's more of a
Makes sense.
suburban
I
center,
just
yeah.
wasn't sure. I couldn't remember.
in modern terms, like urban residential is like high-rise, suburban urban is slightly denser but still suburban, and then general residency is what we all think of in true,
Okay. And I'm sorry, but maybe I'm
Nope.
just getting an education here, but in corridor mixed use, because I was thinking that was, I mean, explain that one.
So previously, we just had commercial.
Yeah, that's what I would thought it would be more.
And so we broke out commercial and corridor mixed use.
Okay.
Corridor mixed use allows some commercial, actually it allows most commercial uses and some residential uses.
Okay, that's what it meant, okay.
And some office spaces and some things like that, to where the old commercial was pretty much you had to be selling product.
Right.
And so we still have that separated out, because like CMU doesn't allow box stores. So you're not gonna get, and most of these lots aren't big enough to put like a Walmart in anyway, but it's a way to, to push, big dense commercial out to the commercial areas where it should, and have our corridors a little more responsive to multiple needs.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember. It's been a while since we did that.
So like in corridor mixed use, you can't have single family, but you can have a live workspace. So if you wanted to have a room in the back that you lived in, but then you had a shop in the front,
I see.
Or an apartment over the top of
right,
the shop underneath.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That's allowed.
right,
Okay.
because it's live work.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Or, if not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Move to direct the city secretary to schedule a public hearing for November 21st, 2023 at 1:30 PM and introduce on first reading ordinance O-011-23 rezoning 517B South Bryan to the commercial mixed use zoning district.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. Item 15, consider and take appropriate action to schedule a public hearing for November 21st, 2023 at 1:30 PM and then introduce on first reading ordinance O-012-23, amending the future land use map by changing block 56 and 57 of the original town site from CMU corridor mixed use and general residency to light industrial. Mr. Byrd?
Yes, it's a lot of words there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So, don't feel bad, I still struggle with the new terminology myself. So this is kind of like what Garrett had talked about in the previous thing, is that we're wanting to change the future land use map based on, actually, Chris Garcia came in and wanted to do something on some recently purchased property, and because it wasn't zoned properly, he was not going to be able to do that. So one of the first things that we do is look at what the future land use map shows, and that wasn't going to allow him to rezone to do what he wanted to do. So the other option is to change that future land use map if it's in accordance to what we want that to look like for the city in whole. And so after doing that, then so we're petitioning y'all to change that future land use map so Chris can basically do what he wants to do over there, and that's basically he's going to have his own self-storage yard over there, and so changing this zoning district from, he's got kind of a mix. He's got I guess 5 lots there, and a couple of them are corridor mixed use, and the rest of them are residential type use. And so if all this goes through, he'll be able to do what he wants to do. And so the first thing in that is to ask for the future land use map to be changed to light industrial, which I believe y'all have some maps of the area, and I think you'll see that's along some railroad tracks there. There are some other residential uses in these 2 blocks, They're very limited now to how many. And those will still remain a residential use until they apply to rezone them lots themselves as well. So basically, if all this gets approved, both line items here, then it would just be Chris Garcia's property that would be actually rezoned to light industrial.
And the others would still be residential?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the future land use does not impact zoning by itself. It's just what we expect, what we think that area should turn into in the future. And so,
Okay, yeah,
so we're not rezoning anything.
Yeah,
And so those will keep their residential zoning until that landowner wants to change. If they never want to change,
it'll stay resident.
it'll stay residential unless we force that change, which,
Right.
you probably wouldn't do. And so
If you did force it, they would be grandfathered?
they'd still be
They'd still
grandfathered,
be-
but,
Okay,
but then the zoning would change. But in this, we're not impacting zoning
right,
on these two blocks. We're just saying that, hey, we think the future is gonna be more light industrial in this area, and that better serves
Makes
the
sense.
city having this zoning move towards light industrial than restricting it to CMU or residential.
it just so happens it's because we had
Right.
a citizen that wanted.
And there again, this property, this is another one that's been used out of compliance.
Right.
Right.
That we just haven't really enforced a whole lot. This is where the old quicksand
Yeah,
Building.
trailer,
Yeah.
not exactly sure, and some storage buildings, or some container storage. So his plans are to clean it up. So I mean, it would definitely be an
That's good.
improvement from what it is, fenced and screened.
It is already improved,
yeah,
so.
What about taxation?
Doesn't impact any of that, so.
Same
the-
residential or?
Right, the way,
Commercial.
the appraisal district will appraise based on what's on the property,
Okay.
regardless of its zone. And I will say, just as we work through some of this, keep in mind that the current future land use map, as well as the old zoning maps, were based on what the current use was.
yeah,
And so some of that just kind of carried over, like I said, when we didn't have enough time to go by parcel, there are, I don't remember how many parcels, there's something like 40-some thousand parcels in the city.
okay,
So it's not uncommon for people in cities to adopt. And the future land use map is supposed to be a living document.
right, yeah, absolutely. So good, thank you, Mr. Bird.
You bet.
I'm sure we'll see you at the next one too. See you in a minute. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to direct the city secretary to schedule a public hearing for November 21st, 2023 at 1:30 PM, and then introduce on first reading ordinance O-012-23,
It continues.
Thank you.
amending the future land use map, thank you guys, by changing block 56 and 57 of the original town site from corridor mixed use to general residential to light industrial.
Second.
And all in favor? And it passes. And then moving on to item 16, consider and take appropriate action to schedule a public hearing for November 21st, 2023 at 1:30 PM. And then introduce on first reading ordinance O-013-23, amending the zoning map of the city of Borger by rezoning 311 Brain Street, lots 9 through 14, block 56, original town site, from the corridor mixed-use zoning district to the light industrial use zoning district. Mr. Burke.
So we're still dealing with the same property here.
Sounds good.
Just simultaneously, he would like to rezone his specific lots to that light industrial. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission met and recommended this change. And so we ask that y'all set a public hearing and
Okay.
approve that as well.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
You bet.
And now, so I'll entertain a motion.
Move to direct the city secretary to schedule a public hearing for November 21st, 2023 at 1:30 PM, and then introduce on first reading ordinance O-13-23, amending the zoning map of the city of Borger, Texas by rezoning 311 Brain Street from the corridor mixed-use zoning district to the light industrial use zoning district.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. Item 17, consider and take appropriate action to approve a replat of Yucca Park Estates, Unit 5, Block 1, Lots 1 through 25 in Section 17, Block Y, M and C Survey, Hutchinson County, Texas. Mr. Spradlin.
So we've been working on this for quite a while. So if you recall, the EDC came into possession of this property as kind of an incentive trade deal. And with our, push for housing, we've been working with Park Hill, our engineer, to get the development plans completed and get the plat done. The biggest change to the plat was the original plat had cul-de-sacs at both ends. It was a dead-end plat. So this plat, we're being optimistic, and we've designed it to keep going. Should the need be there, and we can get some more property. And then, of course, we've also renamed the street. So the original development had Plum, and I was joking with some people earlier, as all of y'all know, I came up through the police department, and one of my big critiques of this city is there are trees in 3 different parts of this town. We have nut-bearing trees in one part of the town, and we have hardwood trees in another part of town, and then we have tree bushes in the third part of town. And so when I had the opportunity to make sure we didn't end up with a fruit-bearing tree part of town, we worked with the EDC to kind of rename that. So of course, it'll be Camelot now instead of Plum Street, but Camelot will come off of Lancelot, so that just continues the street
that's
naming
good.
scheme that is
Okay.
that is over there. The original plat also had a 50-foot pipeline easement that went through the property, which made a couple of lots unusable, and actually one lot completely unusable. So we've negotiated and gotten that easement moved to the perimeter of the property, so it's no longer impacting all of that. So that allows us to get 25 lots instead of the original 24. So since it is a replat, it has to be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. Once the plat's approved, the EDC and the city, the city can finish the 380 agreement with the EDC. The EDC can finish the incentive agreement with the developer, assigning the actual legal description and the legal lots. So we have provided all this information to 2 potential developers. One is kind of our primary going right now. We hope to maybe have that worked out in the next 6 weeks. We do hope that this will be under construction by the first quarter of next year, and hopefully maybe have a first new house going up and completed by the end of next year. So definitely some good movement. The developer will be, I know we get some questions from this, the developer, whoever we partner with on this, will be the one that'll be selling the homes in the lot. So you don't need to contact the city or the EDC if you're interested in a lot. We're only interested in dealing with all 25 lots. So if you're a developer or you want to build 25 lots and 25 homes and build the streets and all of that, you definitely give Amy a call.
There you go.
If not, if you just wait until we get the development agreement signed, there'll be signage and stuff out there, and we're excited to get some new homes started. I will just kind of add to that, once we get this going, we'll start the platting process and engineering for the other property that the city recently purchased this last year as well too. So I know it's been a long process, and we have been making progress kind of slowly through all this, but I think we're finally almost to the physical part of this.
It's pretty cool.
That's what they call it, Camelots.
That edition is called Night Crest, named after the Knights of the Round Table, like Lancelot.
Well, and that's this was originally platted as part of Yucca Estates, which is the subdivision behind there, which Larry and I have gone back. We don't even really know why we didn't catch that, and because this should have been a unit of Knight's Crest, and we were looking at back when Katie was still at the EDC, she had talked about maybe wanting to. We always knew we wanted to rename the street. Just kind of a debate on what it was. Katie thought maybe storybook characters or something like that. Well, when I was looking at the conceptual plan Park Hill did a couple of years ago about how that whole area might could develop out, there are only 4 additional streets that we would need in that entire 283 acres to really develop it. And we still have enough night names. So there again, maybe it's the biased cop in me, but I like to keep everything kind of the same. So we've used Camelot. We still haven't used Excalibur. We still haven't used Arthur. We still haven't used Guinevere.
Oh, that's funny.
Lordy.
Okay.
We'll have to be more original maybe when we get over to the
That's
Buena
good.
Vista side, but,
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the final replat of Yucca Park Estates, Unit 5, Block 1, Lots 1 through 25, and Section 17, Block Y, M, and C survey, Hudson County, Texas.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, sir.
And it passes. And item 18, consider and take appropriate action to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Brother, second. Second.
All in favor? And we are adjourned. We appreciate you all for coming. Thank you.
Messing around.